Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to the another session on JMeter tutorial. So in the today's session, we are going to learn how we can do remote testing or distributed testing in JMeter. And if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and also click on the bell icon to get the updates on the latest videos. So let's get started. First of all, let's see why this remote testing is required because we have the system with us where the JMeter is installed, and as of now in the previous sessions we were able to do the performance testing using JMeter without the concept of remote testing, but now we are looking into this remote testing. So let's see why this comes into picture. So the first reason could be, now suppose there is a requirement to do the execution with 1000 users and my system is not able to simulate 1000 users due to some infrastructure or hardware issues. So in that case, what we can do, we can use some remote host where the load can be distributed. Okay, so I'm going to write the first reason: to simulate user load which JMeter client machine is not able to handle due to infrastructure or hardware limitations. Okay, so this could be the first reason, and the second reason could be, now suppose you have an application to test whose maximum number of users are located at a particular place of the world. Maybe the maximum number of users are located at Warrington and Manchester, and you want to generate the load from there so that you can get realistic response times. So in that case also remote testing comes into picture. So let me write it down also: to generate user load from different geographies to get realistic result parameters like response time. Okay, let me correct it: response time. So these could be the reasons to look into remote testing. Now let's look into the architecture of remote testing. So the remote testing works on master slave mechanism. So let me write it down: works on master slave mechanism. So let me show you what is this master slave mechanism with the help of an image. So this is the machine where the JMeter is installed, and this is the master machines, and after that we have several slave machines as well, and after that we have a server where the application under test is hosted. So as of now what we were doing, we were putting the entire load on this master machine and we were hitting this server. We were hitting this server where the application under test is hosted. Now what we will do under the remote testing concept, we have several slave machines over here, that is a slave 1, slave 2 and slave 3. These are the remote hosts. So what we will do, with the help of master machine, we will pass the control to these slave machines and the load will be distributed after that. And once the load is distributed to the slave machines, these slave machines are going to hit the server, and these slave machines are going to send the request to the server. Okay, so by this process, with the help of this remote testing or distributed testing, we can distribute the load across several slave machines. So the load is distributed. Earlier we were putting the entire load on this single machine, and now with the help of this remote testing or distributed testing, what we are doing, we are distributing the load across all the slave machines available over here, and they are sending the request to the server where the application under test is hosted. So this remote testing works on this master slave mechanism. Okay, and now once we have seen this architecture, now let's look into the prerequisites. There are certain prerequisites before moving on to JMeter for remote testing. So what prerequisites we have? So the first prerequisite is master and the slave machines should have similar version of JMeter installed on them. So I'm going to write master and slave machines must have JMeter installed on them. I'm going to write similar version. Okay. And the second prerequisite is, let me copy this one. The second prerequisite is master and slave machines must have Java installed on them. And in case of Java, we prefer to use the similar version. So I'm going to write prefer to use similar version to avoid any issue. So to avoid any issue, the Java version also should be similar in both master and slave machines. And the third prerequisite is master and slave machine must connect to each other. Okay, and that means they should be on the same subnet. So that master and slave machines must connect to each other. Now said there could be several slave machines according to the load which you want to have in your project. So I'm going to write slave machines because there could be more than one slave machine. So these are some of the prerequisites which we should look into before moving on to JMeter for remote testing. Now once we are done with the prerequisites, let's look into the configuration. What configuration we need to do? So the first configuration which we need to do is, I'm going to write step 1 as what configuration we need to do. We need to move to the JMeter bin folder. I'm inside the Apache JMeter folder, and once you click on this bin folder, you have over here JMeter properties file. So once you open this file, let's search for a keyword that is remote host. Let's search for remote host. So what you need to do from here, let's copy this one. Let's put a hash over here. Let's paste it over here. Now what you need to do, you need to provide the IP of the remote host which you are going to use. Now in my case, I'm going to use this local system as my remote host. So I'm going to provide the IP of this local host over here. So let me search for the IP. So if you are on the Windows machine, you can search the IP with the command ipconfig in the command line. And if you are on the Linux or the Mac machine, you can use the command ifconfig on the terminal. So let me open the command line. And let's give the command ipconfig over here. And this is my IP address. So let's copy this one and let's paste it over here. So in the remote host, you need to paste the IP config. So as of now, I'm using my local system and I'm using only one system as remote host. So in your case, if you are using more than one remote host, so what you need to do, you will provide the IP address of all the remote hosts separated by comma. Suppose you gave the IP address of one remote host over here, and after that you will enter a comma, and after that you will provide another IP address like this. Okay, so in my case, since I'm using only one, so I have put it over here only one IP address. So let's save this file. Let's save this file and let's close this, and I'm going to write the step 1 as provide the IP address of remote host in the JMeter properties file. Okay, so this is my step 1. Now once you do that, let me close this one. Now once you do that, what will happen, it should be available over here. Run remote start, and you can see that IP address is not available here. Why it is not available? Because we have not restarted our JMeter. So once you have done the changes of the IP, what you need to do, you need to close this one and you need to restart your JMeter after that. So let's restart the JMeter. So my JMeter got restarted, and now if you click over here, run remote start, you can see the IP which we had added just now in the properties file that got displayed over here. Okay, now let's quickly create a test over here. I'm going to add a thread group and I'm going to add an HTTP request. So I'm going to add a server name google.com, and let's add a listener as well to see the result. I'm going to add a listener and let's save this file. I'm going to save this file as remote testing. So now we have created the test, but now we will not be able to do the remote testing as of now because we are done with only the step 1 from here. We need to do some more steps as well. We need to do 2 steps now. So what 2 steps we need to do? Let me tell you. The step 2 will be, so if you navigate to the bin folder again of the JMeter, you have a file over here, create RMI key store. So what is this create RMI key store? We will look into this now. So if you are on the Linux or the Mac machine, you need to go to the terminal and you need to move to this bin folder, and after that you need to run this file as create RMI keystore.sh. And if you are on the Windows machine, what you need to do, you can directly run this file from here. So let me copy this from here and let me write it over here as well. Run keystore, run create RMI key store file. So what will happen if I run this one? So what will happen? There will be several questions over here. So you need to provide answers of those questions. So those answers could be random, anything which you want to provide. So what is your first name and last name? So I'm going to write JMeter test. And after that, what is the name of your organizational unit? So any value you can provide. 2 letters. So after that, I need to provide, is it correct or not, the details which we have provided. So I'm going to write yes. And after that, one more command will come. So you need to provide enter key password for RMI. So you need to provide a password here as well. So I have provided the password and we need to re-enter now. So we have provided all the details. So now after providing the details, what will happen? This RMI keystore.jks file will be created automatically after providing the details. So I'm going to write run this file and provide the answers to the questions. So after providing the answers to the questions, this file RMI keystore.jks file will be created, and you need to, what you need to do, you need to paste this file to all the remote servers. Okay, so whatever remote servers you are using, what you need to do, you need to copy this file from here, you need to move to the remote host, and there you need to move to the JMeter bin folder, and there you need to paste this file. And now in my case, since I am using the remote host as the local system, so this has already been placed inside the bin folder, so I don't need to do that process. So I'm going to write paste this file to remote hosts JMeter bin folder. Okay, so we are done with the step 2. So what we did, we ran this create RMI key store file and we provided the answers to the question, and after that this RMI key store.jks file got generated, and what we need to do after that, we need to copy this file and we need to paste it over the all remote host JMeter bin folder. So we are done with the step 2. Now the final step which we need to do is, so this is the final step, after that we will be able to execute this remote testing using JMeter. So what we need to do, we need to move to the bin folder, Apache JMeter bin folder again, and after that there is a JMeter server file over here. So let's double click on that, and once you double click on that, this will get opened up. So it says created remote object. So it says that remote object is created and this is the IP which we have used. Now we are good to go with the JMeter. We can do the remote testing using JMeter now. So let's minimize this one. Let's minimize this, and over here we can do the execution using the remote host. So what we can do, now let's look into the number of threads which we need to take for remote testing. So the number of threads which you are providing over here, remote hosts are going to take that number. So suppose if you have 2 remote hosts and if you want to test with 1000 users, so in that case you need to provide the number of threads 500 over here. So if you provide the number of threads 500 over here, and if you have 2 remote hosts, so the first remote host will take the number 500 and the second remote host again will take the number of threads as 500. So in total you will be doing the execution with 500 plus 500, that is 1000 users. So in this way you can adjust the number of threads according to the requirement in the project. So as of now, let's take the number of threads as 5 and let's do the remote testing. So how we can do, you can go to the run and from here you can select the remote start and you can select the IP from here. This is the IP of the remote host which we have taken, which in my case is the local system. So let's click on that. So you can see the execution got over and the slave machines provided the details, provided the result details to the master machine, and the result got displayed over here. And if you see this JMeter server file which we had started, so it also says that starting the test on this host, which is the host, this is the IP of the my local machine, and after that it says finish the test on the host of this IP, that is it will be the IP of your remote host. So now in case you want to do the execution using the command line, so how we can do that, let's see. You need to move to the command prompt, and here what we need to do, we need to move to the bin folder of the JMeter. So let's copy the path of the bin folder from here. Let's copy the path, and now we need to provide the command. So in case if you are on Windows, we can start with JMeter, and in case if you are on the Linux or the Mac machine, we can start with sh jmeter.sh, and after that we need to give -n-t and the path of the JMX file which we have created. So this is the remote testing file which we have created. So we need to provide the entire path. So let's give the path over here, remote testing.jmx, and after that we need to provide the location of the result file. So I'm going to write -l, and we need to provide the path, entire path, result remote test.csv, and after that we need to provide the IP address of the remote host which we have used. So we have used this IP address, so let's copy this one and let's paste it over here, and now let's do the execution. So let's hit on enter and let's see what happens. So you can see from here, creating summarizer created the tree successfully, configuring remote engine. So it has started the test, and let's see how it goes. So remote engines has been started waiting for possible shutdown. So summary and the tidying up. So we have done the execution. We are done with the execution successfully with the help of non-GUI mode as well. That is with the help of command prompt. And if you see over here, so it also says this JMeter server which we started. So firstly what we did the execution with the GUI mode, and this JMeter server captured that, starting the test and finished the test. And after that we did the execution with the help of non-GUI mode, and this JMeter server captured that as well, that is starting the test and finish the test. Okay, so in this way you can do the execution in your project as well according to the requirement. And if you have any query, please put in the comment section below and I will try to solve your queries.